Chapter 18. After the abortion, Alice suffered from an infection and was transferred to the hospital. The day after she was supposed to be discharged, Dr. Doctor came to see her.
Have we met before?
Alice said, flirty. You mean at the abortion clinic?
No, silly.
Alice laughed.
I mean, I just have a feeling we've met somewhere. In a past life or something.
No, I don't think so, Dr. Doctor said. I would have remembered that. I never forget a face.
Are you sure?
Definitely. I wouldn't forget that. So, he said, the reason I came was that I wanted to check up on you, but I am not officially your doctor anymore. So, I have to ask if it would be okay if I checked the stitches?
Of course.
Thank you.
But seriously,
Alice said as Dr. Doctor was checking out the stitches.
Do you want to have dinner sometime? I have not been childless for the past 32 years and am ready to have some fun.
I can't, Dr. Doctor said and showed some pictures in his wallet. I have 2 kids.
2? How old are they?
40 and 44. They're both in that annoying age when they have their midlife crises and get divorced. My son just dropped off his kids and said, Dad, I can't take this anymore. From this day on, I'm going to be an alcoholic. And I just wanted to do the responsible thing and drop off the children before I start to drink in the car and go on a road trip to find myself. And then Dr. Doctor laughed like he just had to say something he had been thinking about. You know, it's ironic. I've spent half my life delivering babies, and then I realized just how horrible they are. And decided to devote the rest of my life to helping people, instead of helping, Okay, Dr. Doctor said, relieved. Everything looks fine. Later, when her mother picked her up in front of the hospital, Dr. Doctor was standing outside, waving her off.
Look,
Alice said as she got into the car. It was one of those new cars without any windows.
If your kids ever decide to grow up and take care of their own kids, call me, okay?
I promise. Oh, I forgot. Toba says hi and wishes you good health.
That's so sweet of her. How is she?
She's doing great, Dr. Doctor said. She's just adopted a dog.
That's great.
It is.
Okay, so we really have to go. Bye-bye.
Then she closed the door. And they drove out on the depressing avenue with dead trees. But luckily, you could not see that, because the car did not have any windows.
Dad could not come?
Alice said and glanced at the back seat.
Nope. One might expect that he would come. His daughter almost died at the hospital.
Your father is dead, Alice.
What? Why haven't you told me?
Well, I did send you an invitation to his funeral, but you never showed up.
And when was this?
About 15 years ago. Oh, it's okay, dear. No one really expected you to be there anyway.
She suddenly honked the horn.
Watch it, idiot! Can you believe that guy trying to bypass me like that?
She honked again.
So what happened with the old car?
Alice said, just to change the subject.
Oh, that scrap. I had to get rid of that. But it was for the best. This one is much more practical. Get out of the way!
I still don't understand why you couldn't pick me up yesterday.
I told you it is very far away and I have a lot to do. Can't you just be grateful that I picked you up at all? Any normal person would say thank you or glad to see you.
Thank you. I'm glad to see you.
Thank you,
her mother said.
Maybe next time you can try to put some feeling into it, like you really mean it.
Are you mad at me?
No, of course not. Why would I be? It's not like you called me after 30 years and said, pick me up at the hospital tomorrow and invited yourself to stay with me.
Yeah, but what should I have done? I almost died. And before I was discharged, the doctors asked if there was someone who could take care of me because I should not be alone. And then I was thinking, I have no friends, no boyfriend, no children. So I thought, who would take care of me? And that was when I thought of you and Daddy.
And you promise that it will only be for a couple of weeks?
I promise it'll only be for a couple of weeks. But during that time, I'm not allowed to strain myself. I should stay in bed, not do any kind of physical work, and I'll also need help to change my bandages. Otherwise, I might get another infection.
So during this time, I'm supposed to clean, cook for you, wash the dishes and your clothes while you're lying in bed?
Yes, I can't do that by myself.
And what will you do when your sick days are over?
Well, I was thinking that I could study law, so I can specialize in women's rights. I mean, I just feel I've gotten such an unbelievable good start with this campaign, and I thought this law that forces women to take care of their kids until they are 18, it's a trap for women. Women shouldn't have to take care of their children, so I thought that if I studied law and created a feminist party, maybe I could change that law too.
I totally agree. Women should not have to take care of their kids,
her mother said, and turned off the avenue.
Where are we going?
Alice looked over the shoulder.
I thought the apartment was that way.
Oh, I sold that place years ago,
her mom said and lit a cigarette. The car soon filled up with smoke.
Can I have one?
Sure, help yourself.
Where do you live now?
Alice lit her cigarette. By now the whole car was packed with smoke. Both coughed violently as they approached the highway at full speed.
I bought a plot at the cemetery a few years ago and built a grave for Dad and me to live in.
Wait, what? You bought a plot at the cemetery a few years ago and built a grave for you and Dad to live in?
Yes, life in the apartment was starting to get so boring.
All my friends had already moved to the cemetery, and then when your father died, there was
No reason for me to stay, so I decided to sell the apartment and move out to the cemetery. I think you will like the grave. It looks exactly like the house where you grew up.
The sun burned like a pyromaniac in the sky that just wanted to set fire to everything.
I can't remember the cemetery being this big,
Alice said as they walked up to the gate.
Yes, it's a little much,
her mom said and looked with contempt at the crowd that poured out of the gate.
They've talked about building a skyscraper to make room for all these new people. Real estate prices have gone up a lot. Our neighbor, Mrs. Barkley, could only afford to build a small hole in the ground where she has to live with her late husband,
her mother said, and looked at Alice.
You know, Alice, your father and I were lucky when we bought our grave. It could be an investment for the future.
What do you mean?
Alice said, looking at her mother.
Well, I know that you don't want to think about death or the afterlife. You're still young and think that you are going to live forever. I understand that. But do you know where you are going to stay when you die?
Mom, please, can't we talk about something else? This place is depressing enough as it is.
Yes, I just mentioned it,
her mom said.
You can do as you want. I'm just saying that if you die and cannot find anywhere else to stay, you are always welcome to move in with us. I've prepared your old room and haven't changed a thing. I can't swear everything is where it should be. I used old photos from our photo album to recreate the room, just like it was that horrible night when you disappeared. I would actually like you to take a look at the room when we get there. Perhaps you will notice something I have missed. Even if you don't want to live there, I want it exactly as it was. Of course, it would only be exactly like it was if you lived there.
They got on the bus at a square, where you could buy flowers and make an appointment for your dead son at the hair salon. Then they turned left and went through an area that looked exactly like a suburb. It was an old bus with windows, so you had to sit there and look at the depressing houses. The relatives that planted flowers and trimmed the lawns waved to the neighbors. Sometimes they would come up to the picket fence and exchange some comforting words.
I'm sorry for your loss.
Oh, don't be. I mean, she was just a few weeks old. I barely had a chance to get to know her. Then they both kicked in the fence, like they didn't want to leave, but weren't sure what to say.
So I heard that you lost your mom?
Yeah.
Man, that sucks. How old was she?
96.
Man, what happened? Was it cancer?
No. She was part of an adventure club, and they were parachute jumping. Apparently, her last words as she jumped out of the airplane was, "Whee!" They got off at Stay Forever Street, and as they walked up nearby Never Leave Me Street, they suddenly heard a voice from the garden.
Oh, Patrice! Patrice!
They turned around.
Deborah!
Her mother's face lit up.
I'm so glad I found you.
Deborah panted.
I was trying to call, but it is a complete disaster. What's wrong then?
As they were talking, Alice began to drift away and looked up the street until she could see the house. Her mother was right. The grave was hauntingly similar to the house where she used to grow up. It was not like she had promised herself not to set her foot there again, but it felt very eerie to see the house.
Then her mom suddenly grabbed hold of her hand.
Deborah, you have to meet my daughter Alice. Alice, Deborah, Alice.
So nice to meet you.
We are organizing a big protest march on Sunday against the skyscraper that they want to build. Actually,
Her mother said.
I will need to speak a little more with Deborah. If you want to, you can wait at the grave until I come back,
She said and pulled out the keys. No, thank you, Mom, Alice said and looked at the house. I think I will just go for a walk. She'd never really liked to walk, but now that she no longer had to carry around her big belly, it felt very refreshing. She went up the hill past the high-rise area. It was basically a huge hole in the ground, 10 to 12 floors down, with coffins on all sides stacked on top of one another. And the children that were still alive played at the bottom. Alice stood and leaned over the railing, looking at the children when someone opened a coffin and yelled,
"Hey, keep it down! My wife and kids are trying to be dead in here!"
Sorry!
Then he closed the lid again. This was the perfect guy for her, Alice thought to herself. He was single and had no kids.